Hey, welcome to Real Talk with ZSJ is back, y'all. And apologies about the long hiatus, but I did a little video last week letting y'all know what was going on. But anyway, I'm back, and I'm excited to have this guest with me tonight, Brother Trevor. And so if y'all are here, make sure y'all are, hitting the thumbs up button and sharing all of that good stuff. Hey, peace, brother Adrian. So glad to see you here. Make sure y'all help us beat YouTube's algorithms because I was sharing this earlier, y'all. And a friend of mine was like, Zakia, I think Facebook is shadow banning you because I've shared this in a couple of groups and then people keep saying they can't see it. And then a friend of mine hit me up in my inbox and he was like, yeah, I don't see what you shared, sis. And I'm like, see, these damn social media companies are so anti-black. So that's why we have to like do our little workarounds. But yeah, I am coming off a 7-day suspension, jail sentence from Facebook as well. So who knows? They probably still got me somewhat shadow banned. But anyway, that's why y'all have to make sure y'all hit the thumbs up button really quickly, and also share this broadcast. Like, this one gonna be good, y'all. This one gonna be real good. Um, yeah. So what's up, Trevor? Welcome to Real Talk with ZSJ. Tell the
Hey,
audience a little bit about yourself.
yeah, I'm Trevor Bull. I have been a fan of yours. I've watched your videos before, so I was very pleased when you reached out. But yeah, I have a podcast called Champagne Sharks. Some of y'all might have heard it, but if you haven't, you can just go to champagnesharks.com and that has all the links. We have a YouTube page, which we're going to start up again, where we do streams, but most of the main action happens in the regular podcast. So any place you listen to podcasts, just enter Champagne Sharks and you'll hear it. And I mean, basically, we talk about race, we talk about culture, we talk about a lot of stuff, but we try to do an analysis that kind of leans heavy in psychology because I feel like uh, that's a different take than what a lot of people do. But I would say the main thing we try to do with the podcast, which is different than I think a lot of things that talk about race. When we conceived the podcast, what we thought of was I was looking at all this writing that people like Ta-Nehisi Coates, Jamel Bowie, all these people in the mainstream media were doing, and I was thinking, why is it like race writing or race podcasting or race discussion is always about explaining black people or some other non-white people to white people, particularly like white liberals, you know? And I wanted to do a show that was about explaining white people to black people, and that was kind of the genesis of the show. And yeah, that's basically. I'm not sure how well we've stayed on that mission, but we try to keep that in mind that it's about that the audience is black people, not white people. You know, I feel like a lot of books that pretend to be for black people are really for white people, like the Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the
So
World and
true.
Me. That's It's not really to
I
his
couldn't
nephew,
get
his
into
son.
it.
Yeah, because it's not really for his son. It's really for the white liberals reading. Hold on, I just gotta plug in the computer because I just thought a power cord came out. So give me a second. I'll be back in 30
Sure, no
30 seconds.
problem. So while he's grabbing his power cord, how y'all doing tonight? Everybody that's watching, I appreciate y'all being in here. Um, yeah, y'all excited about this topic tonight? Man, listen, we going in tonight. I'm gonna read y'all this full tweet. This brother was teaching on Twitter. It was during the Dave Chappelle controversy when it was like in the news, like, oh my God, every day, all day. Yeah, I can't wait to read it.
Hey, so yeah, I did not want the computer to die while we were talking. So
Right. No, we can't have that.
nah, so we're all good now.
All right, cool. So I think I'm gonna jump into this tweet, Trevor, and because as I was telling you when we were still backstage, um, I was like, when I read it, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, you articulated so well, like what me and I know like so many other people were thinking, but like, you know, either we just didn't like put the time in to like do it like, do a thread like you did. And then the other piece is that the bullying, like people ain't just signing up for that. Like, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Just so yeah. Anyway, so without further ado, everybody that's watching, y'all gonna love this tweet. So this tweet is on October 18th. Let me just actually I'm gonna share my screen. Hold on just a second.
No problem. No problem.
So this tweet is on October 18th. Let's see. Let me share my screen because I want people to actually see it. Mm-hmm. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. All right.
In the
You see
meantime,
it?
I'm just gonna tweet out this link.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead. So let me read this to y'all. It's so good. So you said on October 18th, any black politics white liberals will reward black people for and signal boosts involved balkanizing black people into sub factions, pitting them against each other and or plus rooting for one faction against the other to train them to compete for scraps of white validation and affirmation. Let me go down. That one right there was a bar. Like then the rest of it was just it was brilliant. And you was like, it's really a brilliant hustle. Whereas white conservatives just wanted to stamp out black unity and power as a whole, they had the backfiring effect of increasing group cohesion, unity, and political action. Liberal white supremacists were smarter. Oh, aren't they? They're so conniving. The liberal white supremacist comes down from on high, picks on subgroup of black people and anoints, affirms, and validates them while encouraging them to denigrate another black subgroup and reinforces this behavior through rewards and punishments. The punishments doesn't even have to be actively doing anything evil to the black subgroup that won't comply with the balkanization of the black community and infighting. All they have to do is remove the positive attention and offer it to another black subgroup. For many devoted black liberals, the removal of white liberal head pats is like removing food and water and love. Damn, they almost need it to live. We get trained to treat other black people as siblings we have to compete with for white mommy and daddy's validations and affirmations. But notice for yourself, days of white liberals supporting something like the Black Panthers and Black Power movement are dead. These new white liberals mainly support intersectionality because it encourages subdividing black people into incompatible political interest groups that must compete with each other for attention and resources. Black women spend their time complaining about black patriarchy, which I'll argue doesn't exist, as being as big a problem as white supremacy, despite the insane power differential between the two. And we have black protest movements that spend more time complaining about who gets centered and gets credit for leading and lands opportunities and white attention that actually getting any tangible resorts or concessions from power from the people in power. I had a bunch of white liberals call me transphobic, not because I said black trans people don't deserve help and resources, but for pointing out that the data actually shows black trans people die at exact same rates as their black non-trans neighbors of similar poverty and locations. And that therefore the best way to help black trans people is, I realize it, not a black trans death epidemic, but simply a black death epidemic, period. And the best thing to do is to help black trans people is to work on improving quality of life in black communities, period. So I wasn't advocating to help anyone less or to help one group at the expense of the other. I was saying to help everyone. And that was enough for white liberals and their black liberal mascots to cry foul. The fix is in. If you advocate any collective black uplift without demonstrating you are willing to create a hierarchy of worthiness within black society, you will get admonished. And black liberals will go along with it because white liberal would platform them for it, and individual success is a more pragmatic goal anyway. The only group that doesn't really play the divide and conquer in mainstream discourse are straight black men, but I don't fool myself into thinking it's because we are more noble or principled, but because white liberals don't have much use for us except as occasional dildos. Well, damn. Woo. No one is platforming black men for loudly complaining about other black people. When liberals were, though, we had Chris Rock making niggas versus black people jokes, John Ridley writing about ascendancy of niggers, and Esquire and Boondocks limiting nigger moments as commentary. They tried to put Dave Chappelle in the same bag, but when he caught on to what they were doing, he had a crisis of consciousness and walked away from $50 million. But he wasn't unwittingly being used for the same project by white liberals. Anyway, I think the game plan has shifted and they've offered the playbook now. Everyone but straight black men. Maybe one can plausibly make the argument we had it coming because for a spell in the late 90s through the 2000s, many of us partook in the same deal ourselves in the pre-woke era. Anyway, I don't even know what the answer is, but one thing I'm sure of for now is I don't think there is possibility of a modern equivalent of the civil rights or black power movements anymore. Find a tribe of like-minded black people and try to politically build and coexist with them. I think that in those generations, idea of mainstream white acceptance was understood as a pipe dream, so that temptation to infight for white mommy and daddy's validation and affirmation were largely taken off the table. And now assimilation and post-raciality feels more possible. Today, your average black bourgeoisie liberal think he has more solidarity, empathy, social compatibility, and political goals with their white liberal allies than the ramble on of the larger black society and mainstream black movement politics is fucked as a result. Then you said the end, but then you add an addendum. One last thing, intersectionality is the black school of thought most beloved by non-black liberals because it gives them permission to use black people that make them most comfortable as shields so they can punch down on black people they don't like and be called woke for it. Man, listen, that was a whole that's why I read it all. I wanted everybody to see it. Man, I got a friend, and my brother's in the comments. I ain't gonna put you out there, but he's going through something similar right
Oh
now
wow.
where he's dealing with white liberals coming after him and his organization, of all things, dealing with black homelessness in Washington, DC. And he's got a white liberal, uh, again, using other black people against him, and also using black trans people as the shield. So what you're talking about is actually science. It's happening, and it happens every day.
Yeah, I mean the
And
evidence is right there, but people will deny it. They'll gaslight you like you're imagining it.
ooh-wee, they'll gaslight that. And so, I look, my politics, I consider myself a Pan-African nationalist, so I'm not going for none of it. And so when I see things like that, oftentimes I do speak up. Somebody said he went the fuck in. I'm like, exactly. Hey man, I was like, you articulated what everybody was thinking, but didn't really put the energy into like writing it down and like putting it out there for the world. And I
Yeah.
hit your inbox so quick when I saw that. I was
Well,
like, I need to have you on my podcast like yesterday.
I remember what happened now that made me write it because as you read it, it came back to me. I was
Yep.
invited to do a show called Bad Faith where
Mm-hmm.
we discussed the Dave Chappelle thing, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, do I really want to talk about this topic? Because I feel like people just check their reason at the door and just get emotional on this topic. It gets
Mm-hmm.
people really heated. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna do this show, and I tried. If you watch the show, I was hedging my words and hemming and hawing in a way where I was giving a lot of disclaimers. Like I wasn't holding back on like dropping the facts, but I was giving all these disclaimers like I'm not saying X, Y, and Z. I'm not doing this and that, but
Hmm.
blah blah blah. And it
Right.
didn't really make a difference. Everybody just called me transphobic
Right.
anyway. Like I had to
It's
discuss it.
bullying. It's really
Yeah,
bullying to shut you up, to silence you.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally. So it's like, I didn't like hold my tongue as far as what I wanted to say, but I tried to, you know, put it down with like a teaspoon of sugar and whatever. It didn't just didn't make a difference. So I was being called transphobic and all this stuff. And then one guy just got on my nerves so much. I just told him on the main Champagne Sharks podcast Twitter account. I just told him to jump off a ledge. I said, just please just jump off a ledge, leave me alone. And then I got banned for advocating suicide. They said I was encouraging suicide. So then I just got really mad because I'm like, okay, these people are coming at me in bad faith and calling me transphobic over what I was pointing out. Which what I was pointing out was simply, if you look at the data, um, the place where the poor black trans people are dying are places where black people are just dying. Period. Like
Right.
they're just dying, and straight black men are dying at the same rates um, in the same neighborhoods. So what they're actually doing is it's not that there's a black trans epidemic that's being ignored or that black trans people are being erased. What's actually happening is there's a bunch of poor black people in hard neighborhoods who are dying, and they're actually erasing everybody but the black trans people
Yeah.
to cherry pick. And what I had pointed out, I had to talk with this brother who is a professor. He's a LGBTQ black professor, and he
Is
was
it
giving all the.
Cleo, Dr. Monago?
Oh no, 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 Doctor Monago, he's down for the cause. No, this guy, his name was Stephen Thrasher, polite guy, but he was in the anti Dave Chappelle,
Mm.
talking about the black trans epidemic, and I just pointed out, I said that they're dying at the same rates. This is a black problem. It's not a black trans problem. And what I'd pointed out also was that if you go to the sites of the people who have started this black trans epidemic narrative, right?
Hmm.
Actually, let me back up a little bit.
Sure.
If you look, if you look at the stats, right, and if you look at the straight black men dying, and what I do is when that report comes out every year, I look up every name, and I Google, and I set up alerts so I can see what happens with the case because they announce the
Wow.
case, and then they don't talk about it. But if you set up a Google alert, and you'll find out a lot of times they don't know the motives. They don't know
Right.
what happened. When there is eventually an arrest, a lot of times it turns out not to have a transphobic motive. They
Right.
are involved in the street life sometimes because when you're poor and you're black, a lot of times that's what seems to be the best way out and everything. And they get into a lot of high risk behavior, or there might be drugs. There are some of them are into all types of stuff. Some of them even are trapping. The only place I actually found consistent, ironically enough, transphobic motives, like for some reason, I don't know why, Puerto Rico and some parts of Latin America, a lot of times those were tended to be the only cases I found where someone was like, I'm going to kill you because you're trans. I'm not sure why that is, but
Wow.
that's what was happening. But even with the black ones, a lot of times either there was no proof or nothing that came out showing that there was a transphobic motive, or the motive would come out and there would not be a transphobic motive. And I'm sure there's some black trans people who are dying at the hands of straight black men for transphobic reasons. I'm not going to be a Pollyanna and say that doesn't happen, but
Yeah.
yeah, so I would keep doing that. But then what I started noticing too was I started looking at the rates at which middle class black trans people die. It's not close.
Wow.
Uh, I looked at the rates that white trans people die. It's not close. The
Wow.
closest thing, and when I say close, I mean identical or sometimes even higher, is straight black men. You know,
Hmm.
so I'm like, why are we making a black trans epidemic? But it's
Dr.
because
Monago made the same argument.
oh, he made the same argument.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes. And
he's
because
great.
he also looked at the data. I don't know if you saw him, but he was on Roland Martin, and that was the argument that he made.
Oh, I didn't see that. I used to
Yeah,
listen to him on cows.
yeah.
I've always enjoyed him, but I'm glad because if he's on the same track, then that means that I'm on the right track because I
Oh yeah,
really
you're definitely on the right track. So when I heard you say it, I'm like, that's exactly what Dr. Monago said. I
yeah,
talked to him. He lives, in this area. He's up in Baltimore, um, and I'm down in the D.C. area. But he and I talk all the time about these issues. And what I like about him specifically is that he always come from a healing perspective. He's
yes,
not the type that wants to throw other Black people away. And as you know, he identifies as a same gender loving man, but he doesn't like talk about our community like we have a monopoly on homophobia or transphobia, which is what
yeah,
white liberals do. And they throw out Black liberals to talk about us, in that derogatory way. And like your thread, yeah, I mean, all of
yeah.
that is true. We see it. But
Oh,
I do
oh,
have some
totally.
questions for
Hmm.
you.
Oh, please.
So the first one is, I would love for you to break down how intersectional politics is being weaponized against Black people in general, and how many of us are unwittingly accomplices.
Oh, for sure. But before I get that, I just want to finish off one last point related to what
Sure.
I just talked about, and then
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
segue into the answer that you said because I feel like I'll forget this point. What's interesting is I had some people who came at me when I said what I said, but to their credit, they disagreed, but they came in good faith. Like, as in, I could tell they weren't just trying to do gotchas, they weren't calling me transphobic and everything, but they were saying stuff. And one of the arguments I thought was kind of persuasive, but I think ultimately failed. And I want to bring it up because, in case anybody ever hears this argument, right? They were saying, oh, black trans people are still way more impressed than other black people, including straight black men, because being trans forces you into getting kicked out of your house a lot of times for being trans, or you're forced into high risk behavior like sex work and all that stuff, and it's hard to and I was like, the first thing I said is I don't think that's all black trans people because I live in Clinton Hill slash Bed-Stuy, which I lived here before it became gentrified, but now it's gentrified. And I see black trans people as my baristas. They're working as my bartenders and they can get jobs. Like, but these are like middle class, easy to assimilate, type of black trans people. So it's like it's the poor black trans people that are really being forced into this high risk stuff. But what I told this person was a white liberal, is like, you kind of take black male dysfunction or black male um uh certain types of behavior as a given, but I was like, what poor black person isn't forced into high risk work? Like, yeah, being a trans sex worker, streetwalker in the hood is very dangerous, but being in the corner selling drugs is dangerous too. Like, the black trans person is not going to be on the street trapping, selling drugs, and the straight black man is not going to be out there street walking. Like, they're both doing the high risk behavior and dangerous criminal behavior that is accorded to their particular genders and scenarios. But I was like, black trans people who are poor do not have a monopoly on being forced into dangerous professions. Like, if you are trapping on the wrong block or somebody wants your corner, you're as much dangerous as anybody. And to go to your question about intersectionality and how it subdivides, it's it's weird to me, you never really heard about this, but once white liberals just took a liking to it, you just can't stop hearing about it. And I think the way I think at some point it was kind of decided that straight black men are the deal breaker of assimilation. And what I mean by that is, I think of it like, when you and some people are going to like a nightclub and it's like a hot, trendy, nightclub, and let's say the nightclub's called like, white supremacy or something, or white hegemony, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, damn, this nightclub looks like the drinks are good, like, it's shiny, it's nice, it's better than the club we usually go to. They go to the door and the bouncer is like, okay, everyone can get in, but they can't get in. And then if you're an upstanding person, you're gonna be like, hey, if my friend can't get in, I'm gonna not go in either. But some people will be like, I don't know them. Uh, bye. And they'll go in. And I feel like that person who's they decided as not getting in the club is the straight black man. Like I just feel like with the idea of assimilation and everything, there's just an idea that it's just too hard a thing to assimilate into white society. I think it's for like a variety of reasons. I think maybe, you know, there's the usual demographic fears of like, if you let black men in, they're gonna be impregnating people and reducing the white population, and maybe they have too much swag or whatever. I don't know. Or, you know, the warrior class, you don't want to have too much of the warrior class. Um, let them in behind the gates. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's really where the appeal
It's
of the
a
show.
military strategy.
Yeah, it's a total military state. I thank you for saying that. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. It totally is. It goes back to whenever they would kill the men, but they would keep the women, and they would assimilate the women. That was the old military strategy from back in the day. And but a lot of black people don't want to think that we're at war, because we get to do things like live in white neighborhoods and go to white schools
Say it.
and guest star in white TV shows and get little perks. So it's hard for us to really kind of tell that. Before, it's easy to tell you're at war because they were shooting hoses at you and just beating your ass. But now, they it's you're still at war, but they made it look like a paradise. So I think people think I might be one of the lucky ones. You know what I mean? Like I might get a seat at the table, and whatever happens to everyone else, I don't care because I don't look at them with much high regard anyway myself.
No, that's right. And yeah, I mean, I think, you know, those of us who are well studied or well read, like you said, I mean, to me, you can just connect the dots. Like it's not even rocket science. It's like these people actually haven't changed what they're doing. I
No,
mean,
not at all.
they've like gotten more clever because we've always resisted, and we continue to resist. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that they just figure out new ways to oppress us. I feel like this next question you kind of talked to a little bit, but maybe you can expand on it. So the next question is, can you speak on the contemporary tactics used to divide Black people politically, especially along the lines of gender and sexuality? I mean, I feel like that's what we've been talking about here, but if you want to expand a little bit
Oh
more.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it too because I've watched your show and I've seen your tweets and I know you talk about this. But uh, I feel like one thing I really wanted to make clear in that thread, right, was I wanted to make clear that I don't think black men are blameless. Like I think we've done our own kind of share of this back in the day, and to a degree, maybe some of this is coming to bite us in the butt. Like for example, I watched, and I'm going to bring this back to the question, but
Yeah.
I watched Chris Rock Good Hair for the first time, and I never saw it when it first came out. And when I saw it, I was like, damn, this thing is just kind of clowning black women to make non-black people laugh. You know what I mean? Like he could have been talking about how Koreans use solidarity to kind of box out you know black hair care from thriving, or black beauty shops. Or they could talk about like how like white supremacy and all the brainwashing that it's done has made people feel like they need to have all this long silky hair from Asia or whatever. But I mean, he didn't really do any of that. He didn't really indict white people at all. It was just more like, aren't these like ghetto black women crazy? They spend all this money on hair, and there's like weaves going around like tumbleweeds and everything. And if you watch a lot of that stuff, there was like a lot of that where like black guys. I mean, if you look at Shanae and Wanda and all this stuff, like Shanae kind of became a shorthand for a stereotypical black woman, and you would hear white people calling black women Shanae as an insult when they got
Oh my goodness.
mad at.
Yes. Do you
Yeah.
remember that talk show host? He's dead now, but he
Oh,
called
Imus.
black women, yeah, nappy headed hoes or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I didn't like that Oprah blamed uh rappers to the point that she excluded or let white men off the hook, like that the white men
Are
needed
you
the,
surprised? I mean, it's Oprah. She know who
yeah,
butter her biscuits.
exactly. But I do think that black men, do need to have some kind of accountability for all the kind of negative imagery that we, kind of put out there. I just don't agree with Oprah of saying that they're actually more culpable than the white men, or that somehow the white men have been learning, because honestly, we learned it from them. You know what I mean? But it doesn't make an excuse. But I feel like at some point it's kind of shifted where it's like, okay, we don't need black men anymore, or they're too. Maybe it was OJ, maybe it was whatever. But at some point they were like, okay, at the end of the day, a black man's still a black man, and he might still, act out. So I think, intersectionality, which has been around for a while, but suddenly it's like 4 or 5 years ago, everyone just kind of discovered it and won't shut up about it. And like, I'll be honest, I just don't think it's that academically rigorous. I just don't really think it really
It's really
explains.
not.
It's
Oh,
really
it's
not.
not.
It's really not. It's really not. They use a lot of big words, a lot of jargon, and
Word salad.
yeah, a bunch of word salad. And then when you go through it just doesn't make. And they have to do it because it just doesn't pass the smell test. It doesn't pass common sense. And they try to me throw in all this word salad to hope that you don't notice that it doesn't make make sense. But it's useful. It's useful to white people. I mean, you end up in a place where I've seen people who go to college and get one intersectional professor or something, and then they'll say stuff on Twitter. And this is something I really saw, and she was not doing a bit. She said that white women have um, white privilege, but black men have black privilege. So actually, black male slaves had male privilege over the white female masters. And this is a black girl saying this, and everyone was going in on
It's
her.
so asinine.
It's
And,
so
and you know, I have
asinine.
to say this. A part of this is because the black boule sort of won in the 60s in terms of the policies that were passed. And I say specifically school disintegration, because it really never really integrated. As I said, white people become more clever, so they was forced to like be in the same buildings. But what happened is they began to segregate within the school, which that actually still happens today.
Oh yeah.
This is my expertise. I work in education advocacy and policy, and I think that's one of the worst things that could have been done was us integrating and going to their schools, because now you got
Yeah.
entire generations
And
that identify with this mess.
oh, totally. And I think the mistake was, and I can't take credit for this. I read it in a book, and I wish I remembered the name of the book. So I would tell everyone to read it, but I can't remember it. But Malcolm Gladwell had a episode of his show Revisionist History, his podcast. I'm not crazy about Malcolm Gladwell overall, but I have to give him credit. This episode was good. In that episode, he mentions the name of this book. So if you find that episode, you'll find the name of the book. But I found the book, and the guy made a great point. He said that the reason integration. Well, 2 points he made. He said that And they quoted the family from Brown versus Board of Education. They said, the mother said she got mad at reporters. She said, everyone keeps saying that I wanted to go to this white school because it was better than the black school. But she said, no, my kid's black school was great. The teachers are very qualified. They're wonderful. But the problem is, this white school is at like the end of my block, and I have to go cross town to drop off my kids at the black school. So one of the parents in Brown versus Board of Education pushed back in against like the white liberal reporters. 'Cause even back then, the white liberal always like reframing stuff. They said no, it wasn't about my kids were at a crappy black school and they needed to be around white people to get like they were getting a good education, they were getting everything. They it's just about I should have the choice, you know. But she was very adamant about praising the black teachers, the black schools, and everything. Even if she felt like the supplies weren't always great because they were being cut off from funding, she liked the education. But the book made the second point, which I thought was I never thought about it till I read in this book. But it said that the real trick bag that they pulled was they should have integrated the administrators and the teachers first, then integrated the kids. Because then when the kids came in, they would have had sympathetic, black mentors, role models, people to like look out for them, protect them, and take their
Instead,
side.
they fired a lot of black teachers.
Yup. They put the kids in and threw the kids to the wolves. They put the kids in first, then the black teachers ended up being unemployed. The black schools, a lot of them were like shutting down, and then you would have like a perfectly qualified, great black teacher. They wouldn't hire the black teacher in the white school. So those black teachers a lot of times ended up losing their jobs, becoming custodians. And no disrespect to the job of being a custodian, but if you're trained
Right.
to be a teacher and you're great at it, it's not fair that you have to do that. But yeah, it's I thought that was a great point that we threw the kids to the wolves. We let them in, and you look at the eyes and the prize and those things, and as much I like those documentaries, when I see like those white kids or those black kids walking through a gauntlet of adults and white kids and being spit at and all that stuff,
Psychological trauma, psychic
terrible.
violence. That's what I call it, psychic violence.
Yeah,
And it still
totally,
happens to this day. Our children um, go to schools where their spirits are murdered, right
totally.
there. And so the police, right, kill us physically, but it's the white teachers, because we know the majority of teachers in this country, 83%, I believe is the last number of teachers in this country, no matter what type of school you go to, are white women.
Yep.
And that can't be lost on people at all. So if white women have access to our children's brains and how they think and how they're socialized for 8 hours a day, we can't really be surprised with what we see in our community today, and how you got a lot of black mascots for white supremacy, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, totally. And there's a lot of people out there, they would rather be like, a mascot to like the white world, but get those like creature comforts and whatever, than um be a fully functional human in the black world or minority world or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, because I feel like this playbook is done with more than just black people. We're just the ones that it gets done with the most, and we're usually like the beta test for everything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to switch gears a little bit, especially after yesterday. Yesterday was election day for a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
people across the country. And so here's the question. So, there's been a deafening silence amongst the pro Biden Harris crowd, who took much pleasure in shaming Black folk who dared demand a Black agenda. Remember that, right?
Yeah.
So, how do we convince our people that this will continue to happen as long as we continue to give our vote away freely?
I mean, a lot of black people stayed home, so
Ain't that the truth?
I
Hey,
felt
I
good about
loved it.
that. But there was still way too many of them, at least on Twitter. I always have to remind myself, at least
Twitter is
right
not a
now,
real place, Dave
yeah,
Chappelle.
yeah, it's not the real world, at least not yet. maybe in a
Right.
generation or two
Yeah,
when
the metaverse, right? That's
y-
coming.
yeah, exactly. Like maybe it's gonna happen, but right now, but there was still a lot of people. I don't know if you saw Jonathan Capehart, but he was like,
Oh, did you see? I went off on him
oh yeah.
on Twitter.
Oh, actually, I saw you in the replies. I
Did you see
remember now.
it?
Yeah, I did see you. Yeah. But
I
how are
was
you still
like,
talk? Yeah, yeah. Black women saving the country. Like the country should be saving black women. Like
come on.
they're the politicians. They're the one in power. Like why are we expected to save this country? And
I'm not interested.
yeah, not interested. And it's supposed to be the other way around. Like politicians are supposed to serve you. You're not supposed to um be the one serving the like but even with Hillary, like I don't like Trump, but Trump made a great point, like but it shows like the narcissism in a lot of these white liberals and the entitlement they feel to people's support, because Hillary's first slogan was like, it's my turn, and then people were like, my turn, like what, like what are you, like a queen, like is this a monarchy, like what do you mean, like you're not entitled to anything. And she got rid of that, but then she came up with I'm with her. And then Trump made a great point. I hate to admit it, but he said,
He did.
yeah,
Yeah.
he said that speech once. He says, it's not supposed to be you're with her. She's your politician. It's supposed to be she's with you. And I was like, damn, that's a actually good point. It came from like the worst person imaginable, but it's actually a good point. But I think that's the relationship that they have with black people, white liberals, and I think sadly a lot of black people internalize it. A lot of black people think it's their responsibility to show white liberals what good liberals they can be, and then um eventually, hopefully, the white liberals will throw them a crumb. I don't know what they expect that crumb to be, but
What do you think about the rise of I mean they've always existed. But I'm wondering what you think about the rise of black Republicans. The sister is actually a Jamaican sister down in Virginia. One lieutenant governor and made history in Virginia as the first black woman to be in that
oh,
type of
was she
statewide
was
office.
she the one who gave that horrible speech? I have it
She's
right in.
anti-black. I mean, she's anti. Yeah, she's yeah. The ADOS people went off about her.
Oh, I think I have it. Uh, let's see. I think I'm able to share if you approve it, but I think I have it right here.
You can share it. Let me know.
Yeah, yeah. Let me find it. I gotta. Yeah. Let's see. This should be it. Yeah. So this should be it. But is this the woman? Because this
That's
quote
her.
was, yeah, this quote was crazy, and I think it's worth
Did you
playing.
share it with the sound?
It should be shared with the sound, but I didn't enlarge it yet. Once I enlarge it, the sound will start. So I'm gonna start at the beginning.
Want to
And
Yeah,
introduce
start
to
at the
you
beginning.
my husband,
okay,
Terrence.
just give me now. I'm somebody that my family's from immigrant descent. I'm born and raised in America in New York, but my family is Haitian, and you know I have to admit, like a lot of people from immigrant descent do this. Like, I think sometimes people go like overboard on the diaspora war stuff, but I do also think it's not from nowhere. Like there is some stuff that happens, and this is a perfect example. I thought it was very insulting to Black Americans what she said, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
play it. I'm gonna
Yeah, let's
play it.
play it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am at a loss for words for the first time in my life. You know, I love you too. I am here. Yes.
All those voices sound white, don't they? We love you, girl.
Marine Corps. Motivated, dedicated. So I'm here because of you. I'm here because you voted for me. I'm here because you put your trust in me. That's the only reason I'm here. Thank you. Thank you. Got my speech.
Unfortunately, this clip goes too far back. It's not at the
Want
juicy
to
part.
introduce to you my husband, Terrence. He's another Marine. My daughter, Katja, and my other daughter, Janelle. I'm telling you that what you are looking at is the American dream. The American dream. When my father came to this country, August 11th of 1963, he came at the height of the civil rights movement from Jamaica. He came and I said to him, but it was such a bad time for us. Why did you come? And he said, because America was where the jobs and the opportunities were. And he only came with $1.75.
Oh, give me a break.
$1.75. Took any job he could find and he put himself through school and started his American dream. And then, yes, and now he's comfortably retired. And then he came and got me when I was 6 years old. And when I stepped on that Pan Am Boeing 737 and landed at JFK, I landed in a new world. And so let me tell you this. I am not even first generation American. When I joined the Marine Corps, I was still a Jamaican, but this country had done so much for me. I was willing to die for this country. USA.
I think it's enough, right? I think the point. I think the point because there's like 4 more minutes of that. I don't know if I can stomach much more of it.
Yeah, it was a lot. I watched the whole thing too, and I mean, but
I mean,
like,
it's up to you if you want me to keep
like that. I had an uncle who was also in the Marine, and he was a black Republican. I don't know what they do to people in the Marines, but
yeah, I don't know
black
either.
people, they come out like lobotomized.
I mean, like this more, but I feel like the point basically comes across. But you know what really annoyed me about that, right?
These
She
comments
asked
are
her father,
hilarious.
why did you come here? It was so bad. And he said that's where all the opportunity was. Why was the opportunity not in Jamaica? Because
Right.
the white people took all the resources. First off, why does Jamaica even exist? It shouldn't even exist as the way it exists, except that they took slaves out of Africa. Like, if you look at the natural resources of Europe, like what do they have? Like dirt. That like there's no natural resources there. Everything they have
Right.
there, they
Everything is
get
from the
from they get.
continent. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing that Europe produces is coal, and then America has like oil in some places, but basically the spices, the resources, all that stuff comes from other places. So they're acting like Jamaica and Africa and all these places just magically existed, fucked up, and white people were just sitting around, just doing good, and that was the only place to go. But I mean, they made themselves the only game in town at your expense. You know what I mean? And that's what
Mhm.
really annoys me about what she was saying there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it was here's the thing, it's like, so there's several people, that I know that are like, in my circle, and a lot of people, I would say, like our age and down, are disillusioned with the Democrats. And because that this country has a two-party system, the only other party that can win something is Republican. And so people just do it as a default. And I don't know, like, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but I feel like, from a Pan African perspective, it doesn't make sense to me to vote in some cases. I will say locally,
Yeah.
it makes sense and things like that. But in some of these situations, I think that politically we shouldn't even get involved. I don't know. Where do you stand on that? Because this is
I'm
like hearsay in Black community. We
oh
got people
oh
that
yeah.
died for our right to vote.
Oh, people will get really mad. I feel the same way, but people get really upset when you talk about like voting is like a religion, and not even just to white, not even just to black people, even to white people it is as well. Like, but for us especially, we're really it's like a religion to us, and it's like I was arguing with somebody online, which I try to do less of these days because it goes nowhere, it just frustrates you. But I got stuck into an argument where someone was like, um if we don't vote, because I was talking about how Biden like basically didn't do anything, right? Even the Lilly promise, and it's like,
Oh,
well,
he doing stuff for other groups.
oh,
Asians got a law. He
oh
getting ready
yeah,
to give 450,000 to people who came across the border. He
the
get
family
but
separation people, yeah,
yeah, he tabled reparations. Told Sheila Jackson Lee that don't expect anything on that.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah.
But people, black people kept coming to me and they're like, "Well, what was the choice? Was it Trump?" And I was like, "What did Trump do specifically?" And this is not a defense of Trump so much as a saying that he's no worse than the Democrats as far as like black people. I was like, not something incidental, because what they would keep saying to me is, hey, if you look at the immigrants, a disproportionate amount of immigrants that he was targeting were black, but
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't targeting them because they were black. He was targeting them because they were immigrants. And out of every group, the black people are always going to be the most disproportionately affected out of every group. But as
Right.
far as like doing something where it's like, I want to hurt black people just because they're black. Like, I'm like, can you
Right.
give me an example of something that Trump did where he was like targeting black people the way he was
I said the
targeting?
same thing. He
Yeah,
did not
yeah,
target us.
yeah.
People don't want to admit that though.
He did not target us. He's did the same neglect that
That
everyone's
the
given
rest
us.
of the presidents do. Like just
Yeah,
we don't don't exist.
but I would argue Biden has a
I voted
more.
Green Party too. That person that said I voted for Green Party out of protest. I
Yeah,
did too.
I did that in 2016 myself.
Yeah.
But I would argue Biden did more stuff to specifically target black people in his history with his segregation stances, the crime bill.
The crime
Like,
bill.
yeah, I
And
was like,
people kept saying, well, black people supported it. That still don't excuse him.
and also it's a exaggeration anyway, because if you read like the New York Times articles from that era, they tied the bill in to other things that they wanted, and they threatened. You can find this in the New York Times articles of the year that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But if I could find it, I'll even put it up before we end the show, because
Yeah.
it's a good article. But
Mm-hmm.
um, basically, what they did was they told the black people that the Black Caucus, hey, if you don't take this bill as it is, and they
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of stuff that they wanted for their communities, like if you don't take this bill, we're gonna give you an even worse bill the next time
Mm-hmm.
around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they took it, but they took it with a lot of bitterness, and they didn't like it, but they were kind of uh, railroaded. So actually, I'm gonna put up two articles on the screen. One is from 1994. One is from 2016. A lot of black liberals were using that talking point the most, and it really got me
Mm-hmm.
upset that a lot of black people were saying this to excuse the crime bill. But they were like, "Oh, it's okay. A lot of black people,
Kept
actually
saying
wanted it."
that.
Yeah, and it wasn't true. I
And
was
that
a
wasn't
lot.
true because they went and found some testimony that Jesse Jackson and a couple other people were on congressional record begging them not to do it.
So if you look, this is the title of one of them. You can Google it. Blacks relent on crime bill, but not without bitterness. And then if you look at the actual article, it explains, and it's from the time. It's from 1994, and it talks about all the ways that they were kind of. It's by a guy called Stephen Holmes. All the ways they were kind of pushed into accepting the bill. But even back then, they said that of how many black people were really upset about it, but they
Mm-hmm.
pretty much had to bitterly accept it. But these black liberals are kind of making it seem like
They didn't have to. I'm tired of people when it's
they
time.
didn't have to.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
Yeah,
like every time there's a negotiation, and this goes all the way back to the Compromise of 1877. The negotiation is always to throw us away. We're discardable,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
And to have black politicians relent to that, to me, they should have stood. They should have just stood and said, "We're not.
Yeah,
You're going to
you're
have to
right.
pass this without us."
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. That's absolutely fair.
Because look at what 30 some odd years later, we have hundreds of thousands of black men and women in cages. Talk about cages,
Yep.
in cages,
But
and you have children. Yeah,
that's normalized though, because look at
yeah.
I mean, people are talking about all those kids being in those cages by ICE, but in foster care and child protective services,
Talk
black
about
kids
it.
have been in cages like forever and separated from their parents. But black dysfunction is just normalized. It's just like it's
The
something that you
harm towards
manage.
us is normalized.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I completely agree. So yeah, I mean, I'm of the mind of I actually stopped voting for Democrats. I think it's been about 10 years, and I've been voting green or voting third party, just depending. I voted recently where I live for a few Democrats, but I have not ever voted for a Republican. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, we're not talking about this tonight necessarily, but with these mandates, these draconian mandates and forcing people or taking their jobs, I'm not with it. I'm not with it at all. I could never be with that.
Yeah.
The government partnering with multinational pharmaceutical corporations to force. You know, you can't even talk about it on YouTube. They'll take the video down, but you know what I mean. That's why I don't
No.
even talk about it. But yeah, I have a couple more questions for you, and so I've heard you speak about white society pitting subgroups of black people against each other. We've been talking about that, and using positive attention as a type of currency to reward. Please speak to our role in enabling this tactic to be effective. What's our role in it?
I mean, God, that's such a deep question, man. I'm it's I think there's a lot of culpability, and I always somebody once told me, I forgot who it was, but I remember one time somebody told me it's always easy to uh point out like the coon in someone else, but they say like like if you sit down by yourself, like can you really sit down and he said the real challenge is when you could like spot the coon in yourself, like because
Hmm.
and when he said that, I was like, that's heavy because everybody,
Mhm.
you know, I feel like it's like speeding. Like when you're driving, everybody that drives slower than you is drives like a grandma, but everyone who drives faster than you is like uh a maniac. And I feel like selling out is kind of the same way. Everyone thinks the concessions they make are just the right amount of concessions that fall below Coonan, but anybody who does less concessions than them is a crazy radical, and anyone who
Mhm.
does more concessions than them is a sellout or a coon or whatever. But yeah, I mean,
Right.
I think we're all culpable in like a lot of ways, and I think about it myself,
Mhm.
um, like there's a lot. I I feel like we really kind of fell for the post-racial hustle. I know I
Ooh-wee.
did. I can't speak for everyone, but I know I did. And there's a lot of stuff I would
I
laugh
didn't
at.
either. Because I mean, I was living it like we ain't post racial.
Oh, I'm saying I
I was in
did.
Ohio at the time. Yeah.
I'm admitting that I did. I did fall for the post-racial hustle.
I
Like
hear you. It's all
yeah,
good.
yeah, and
You came out of it.
yeah. But I don't want to lie and act like I was,
Sure. No, I get it.
on point all the time because I because
Yeah.
I did like like I grew up and I would think I was pretty conscious or whatever, but I thought at a certain point, okay, the worst is over. The main stuff now is like microaggressions and like I didn't think racism was done, but I thought the hardcore stuff was done, and now it was just about making sure that people had right racial manners and whatever and all that stuff. And as much as I didn't like Obama and what you know the promises he broke, the one good thing I would say about Obama's presidency was it really kind of woke me up to just how racist America like still really was. Because I'm like, this guy's not even doing anything, and these people can't stand him. Like they're acting like he's out there with a dashiki and an afro and a black power fist, like you
Right.
know, setting stuff on fire and everything. Like, yeah, I mean, they still talk about him even after he's out of office, and he's not doing anything except making Spotify playlists
Hmm.
and producing Netflix shows. They're still talking about him like he's some kind of fifth column communist and whatever. And that's when I really realized, like, you really can't do anything for these
Hmm.
people. That's
Right.
enough. You know,
Right.
yeah. So I'm not a fan of Obama, but I appreciate his presidency as far as like what it woke me up to. I'll say that. But yeah, I think that a lot of us who kind of bought into like the post racial stuff, a lot of us who bought into this idea that like I think a popular idea that happened in the 2000s was this idea that the civil rights generation happened and they did all this stuff. Like people exaggerate just how much the civil rights generation got done because they pat themselves on the back all the time. And this idea that okay, now it's up to black people to live up to what to all this stuff that the civil rights generation got. So like I'll give an example. There's the show The Boondocks, and there's the Martin Luther King episode, the Martin Luther King speech, and he's talking about, oh, um, I marched for all you people, I did all this stuff, and now you guys are just a bunch of N-words, just shooting dice and doing all this stuff. And the idea there is kind of white people lived up to their part and they gave us all this stuff. And now we're dropping the ball. And there was a lot of talk like that. I mentioned this article in the thread by this guy John Ridley, who wrote 12 Years a Slave. But if you can find this article, it's heinous. It's called The Ascendancy of the Nigger, and it's the same thing. It's about how um, racism is kind of over. White people gave us all this stuff in good faith, and now we're dropping the ball by being a bunch of N words. There's a Chris Rock niggas versus black people joke, and it had the same thing, like um, that the wrong kind of black people are dropping the ball. And I think normalizing that attitude, and I think it still exists in a more disguised form today, but I think that attitude is still there, that there's bad blacks who are messing it up for everybody, and that these white liberals want to do the right thing for us, but it's now it's maybe straight black men who are homophobic messing it up for everybody, or whatever the boogeyman of
Straight
today
black
is.
men are the boogeyman. Yeah.
Yeah, but to answer your question, I think that's probably the one of the biggest things we as black people have done to contribute to this, was buy into this idea that white liberals had done all this great stuff for us and blame ourselves. That Stockholm syndrome, that we dropped the ball, that we just had to work harder or be more respectable and everything. And like I said, even after Obama, if anybody can still believe that, then then they want to lie to themselves. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's real. All right. Final question. Got my family in the background, so they making a little noise.
All good.
We got to talk about this. So, what are your thoughts on the prevalence of black men being labeled as problematic or toxic for not accepting the intersectional norms that are clearly against us all?
That's a great question. And I actually want to ask you a question related to that, because
Okay.
I'm a big fan of your show.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, yeah, I actually invited you on before. but
I
but
don't remember. Really?
yeah, yeah, I
You
invited you
invited
on,
me on Champagne Sharks?
yeah, 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 about like 2 months ago. But I think it got lost in
Did
the
you
it was
email me or something?
no, it was on Twitter, it was on the timeline. It probably just got
I
lost. But
missed it because I'm gonna
yeah,
be honest with you. I
yeah,
missed it because I'm not on Twitter as much. I'm starting to be
yeah,
more on Twitter now because Facebook is
yeah,
absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, I just
yeah.
came back from a 7-day Facebook jail sentence, so I'm starting to like move to Twitter more and Instagram. But Facebook has for me been my largest audience,
Yeah,
and I get
and
the most.
Facebook's getting
interaction.
draconian. Yeah, they're
It's very
crack.
draconian. But you got liberals asking them to do it. That's the problem.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
liberals, it's the liberal organizations that are putting pressure on them to basically censor everybody that don't toe the line. And it's bullshit.
And a lot of black liberals will be right in line
Yeah,
with
it's
them
black
too.
liberals. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be the
What I
first
mean.
ones reporting you. And by the way, I was only bringing that up not to call you out, or
I
put you out
want
in
to
the
come on the
spot.
show though. I'm glad you invited me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I
let's
was
do
only
it.
bringing that up to just demonstrate that I've been a long time fan. That
I
I'm not making
appreciate
it,
that.
not
And I'm
making it up.
totally down. Let's talk about it
Yeah,
afterwards. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But I want to ask, what do you think about all the straight black men who have decided to parrot the same thing? Because I'm trying to wonder, like, why are they doing it? Like, for example, that black writer Damon Young, who wrote the article,
Don't get me
straight
started on him.
straight black men are the white people of black people, and there's so many like black guys like him who have decided we're going to be the Uncle Tom of straight black men. We're going to say whatever we have to say about our own group. And I've been trying to wonder like where they're coming from, like what are they getting out of this? Is it really, I was wondering what you thought about that.
So, you've described the phenomenon very well in that Twitter thread. Damon Young is getting rewarded handsomely. He is receiving speaking engagements all over the country. I'm not sure what his fees are, but I'm sure he's getting paid. After that article, he blew up.
He
He
did.
blew up.
You're
You know
right.
what I mean? And so it's the rewards that you talk about. So, like, he is straight. He's married to a black woman and has children and everything. So when you see brothers doing like that, they're doing what other black boule or whoever, like, oh, okay, I'm getting mine. If I gotta, shit on other black people that look just like me, that are just like me, to do it, to get white acceptance and white affirmations, as you said, and the money. That's a trifecta.
And you know something else too, I'll add to that.
Mhm.
It's easier to be mediocre if you do that, because if you look at his writing, the writing's not good. The
It's
thinking is
not.
not
But he's
strong.
like an editor. He's like getting paid. So the Griot is not black owned. I
Yeah.
believe Univision or somebody owns it.
Yeah, it's been sold several times, but I think Univision currently has it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, clearly, those kind of things are promoted heavily on social media. Those type of articles, those type of so-called think pieces.
But
They're
like
blogs, and
people like
people are
you are
taking
like,
blogs as fact.
yup, yup. But people like you, I think, are way sharper than a Damon Young, but they're never gonna platform you. But like,
So they ain't never gonna platform me. What you
yeah,
see what they did to Sister Soldier?
yeah.
They silenced her. So they definitely not promoting no new schools or the Sister Soldier. I had to tell you a funny story really quickly.
Oh,
I
please
used to
do.
I used to work for state government when I was in Ohio, and I came into consciousness while I was working there. And there was an older black guy who every time he saw me, he'd be like, Sister Soldier. And I thought he made that up for me because I didn't know about Sister Soldier. And it was years later that I was like, oh,
Ah,
I was like, he was calling me like, the sister. And I was like, oh, and I loved it. I started watching, the video. If they haven't been taken down, she has several videos of her up on when she's on Phil Donahue. She's been on there a couple times.
oh,
And
she got such a raw deal. Oh my god.
oh man, they really. And so yeah, you don't hear those kind of, they do not platform sisters like that. Most of the sisters that you're seeing in the limelight and platform are totally white black liberals. I mean, they're
Yeah.
totally
They're basically white
white
liberals in
acceptance.
blackface, so you're not wrong. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's kind of a Freudian slip, but I think it's
Right.
accurate.
Right.
You know what's great about Phil Donahue? That example that you gave is he's an example of a white liberal. I'm not gonna go overboard in giving him props because I don't know at the end of the day what he does behind closed doors. But compared to Oprah, Phil Donahue used to have some real stuff on, man. He
He
used to have
did. He used to have
uh,
Khalid Muhammad, Minister
yeah,
Farrakhan. I mean, I still watch that Khalid one. I watch
y-
that once a month because it does something for me. I'm like,
yeah.
ooh, where is that type of black masculinity now? But again, it's not platformed. It exists.
Yeah,
There's brothers out there who's strong, but they're not going to put them on like national TV so that black people can identify.
Phil Donahue used to have everybody on. He used to have Leonard Jeffries on, and at the
Yes.
peak of his controversy, and he would not put them on there to be like railroaded or anything. He would let
Right.
them tell off white people and say their piece and everything. And Oprah never did that. Oprah just had like
Oprah never did that.
housewife.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, she had housewives stuff for
Yeah.
like white housewives. It was
Yeah.
it was BS. But if you notice, like
Phil Donahue
even
had on a lot of the greats.
he
I
had a
think
lot of the greats.
Shahrazad Ali was on there talking about her. Yeah.
But if you
Go
notice,
ahead. I'm sorry.
white people don't fuck with them. I'm sorry, I don't mean to curse. White people don't mess with them. White people don't mess with them anymore. Like I think if you're a white liberal that even tries to break the mold and signal boost some real black politics,
Mm-hmm.
even white people will get thrown under the bus. Like they do not give Phil Donahue work. They do not do, because he would always keep it real. Like he criticized the Iraq War when it wasn't cool to criticize the Iraq War. He
Yep.
platformed black people. But first off, he would never even get a show like that today. They would never
No,
even
you're
give
not
him.
gonna get a show like that today.
Yeah. 4 in the afternoon when kids are after school. Like I used to be after school watching
Yes.
Khalid Muhammad tell off
Oh my
white people.
God,
Yeah.
Khalid Muhammad. Oh,
Someone
brother.
said someone said he had Shahrazad Ali. I forgot she did.
Shahrazad Ali. Yep.
Shahrazad Ali. Yeah, he did have her on, and he let her speak her piece, and she
Yeah.
handled herself well. He didn't like try to like stack the deck against them or railroad. Yeah, so it's like even like the white liberals that did try to be somewhat down, they can't even get any work. So you can imagine like black people who try to get it's not gonna happen.
It's not happening.
Yeah, it's not happening at all. Nowadays, if you have any type of panel, we look at those old panels, and these have those old panels, it'd be like A. Philip Randolph and Malcolm X and
Yes.
someone who Wyatt, I forget his name, Dr. Wyatt something,
Mm-hmm.
but I think like White Walker, like the people from all different walks of life having an intelligent conversation. They would not even have that. First, it wouldn't have Malcolm X. It would be 2 founders of Black Lives Matter, D. Ray, Damien Young. Yeah, and it would just be and Jamil Lemieux, and they would just all be like patting each other on the back and no type of conflict or difference of opinion.
Right. Now we got a lot of folks. The comments are hilarious to me. Now Donahue, I think, was one of the best shows, and so white folks know that media is very powerful, and so broadcasting those ideas and thoughts from Minister Farrakhan and Khalid Muhammad is dangerous to politicizing young black people. But that's exactly what they did.
I think it was a good example of how like all skin folk are not kinfolk, because they use Oprah, they use the black face to kind of undermine that. And I remember at the time, it is something that I believed in because my sister believed it and my mother believed it, and we all believed it, that the more pro-black thing to do was to support Oprah because she was a black face. So we all switched to Oprah. Like we thought that was doing our duty, and it was pretty insidious. They use representation and whatever. And when I look back, I can't even remember a single Oprah show. I can still remember Khalid Muhammad moments that I have, or like Donahue moments that I haven't even repeated or rewatched, and they're still clear as a bell. If I look back on what I was watching on Oprah, I can't remember anything. It was just like fluff. It was nothing.
Right. Basically.
Yeah. But we thought we were doing something.
No, this has been a good conversation. We'll definitely have to do it again. And I'm definitely down to come on to Champagne Sharks. Absolutely. I apologize that I missed that tweet, but yeah, I'm definitely down to come on.
Can I just say you have great comments? A lot of times people invite me onto the streams and there's a bunch of kooks in the comments, and I be thinking like, yo, what kind of audience do you have here? Like, where'd you invite me on?
I have an amazing audience.
You have a great audience,
folks who love black people, unapologetically black, and I love it. That's who I am. So I'm a little too much for some black people. I think black liberals would find me to be just a little too black. They would call me a hotep. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
oh,
So
oh yeah,
yeah, you
that's
know what
become
I
a
mean. They call us
catch-all.
hoteps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm gonna ask you another question. Like,
sure.
do you feel like the tide is turning? Because part of me feels like so. Like, I feel like a lot of people just sick of those blue checks. A lot of people, like when Jonathan Capehart said what he said, you weren't the
Hmm.
only one going in on him. There were a lot of people just
Oh,
telling
I
him like,
went in. I
yeah, yeah,
went in there. Like, man,
you went
just
in,
shut the fuck up.
but you weren't alone. Like, I feel like 4 years ago you would have been like one of like two or three people, but that whole
Right.
comment section, people were just like, I think, getting kind
Oh
of
yeah,
sick
I'm
of
a
it.
pick me. I'm definitely a pick me because I ride with black men. I'm not crazy. Like I said, I'm a Pan African nationalist, so I'm not into, denigrating our black men and denigrating any part of our collective. So yeah, I've been called a pick me, a hotep. I've been called it all,
Yeah,
but
and you know what's
it's a
crazy?
badge of honor.
Have you had white people calling you Hotep? That's drives me craziest. Like,
No, I actually haven't. I think the white people that's in my circle know better.
yeah, but I'm talking about like strangers online and stuff. Like a lot of these white
Nah, a lot of
liberals.
white people don't follow me. I mean,
Oh,
I have very few white folks that follow me. I mean, I'm too much. I
yeah,
don't censor myself. You know what I mean? I post what I post, and you know, I think that the white people that are in my circle, why would you do that? Stop. I think the white people that are in my circle, they just don't say nothing.
yeah, yeah.
They,
But these will be white people who don't follow me, but what I wrote got retweeted into their awareness, and they'll be like, shut up, you Hotep, and like my friend Q, um, formerly known as Andre Domis, he made a great point. He said like Hotep is like 0 calorie nigger. Like that's a new way for white
Ooh,
people to say nigger without saying nigger. But it's the black
thank you
liberals
for
that
the super
embolden.
chat.
Oh,
Much
nice.
love.
Jin Kazi. How you doing, man? He's one of the fans of my podcast. Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, he just gave me a super chat. I appreciate you. Thank you, Jen Kazi.
Nice, nice.
Welcome.
See that I'm bringing the money too. See
You
that?
bringing the money, man. I definitely got to have you back. Nah,
Yo,
I do this out of love. So like, I don't be asking people to give to me. I'm blessed to have a good income. My husband and partner. Like, I'm blessed. So people want to give. Obviously, I'm grateful and thankful, and encourage it. But I don't like be like, yeah, hit the super chat and hit me up on Cash App, because some
I,
people have
I'm
like,
gonna do it for you. Everybody out
oh,
there, don't let a Champagne Sharks fan make y'all look bad. Y'all gotta step up too.
right, right.
No, I'm just playing. I'm just
Um,
playing.
no, I appreciate it. Now, this has been an amazing episode. I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your courage, and calling it out, and literally taking the time to articulate what so many of us felt anyway. You know.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting me. Like I said, I was very happy to see your name in my DMs. Asked me to come on. I was like, instant yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right, cool. Well, listen, we'll have to talk again on DM, because I want us to schedule me coming on to Champagne Sharks. I'd be happy to,
for sure.
come
I want to
on.
shout out your audience too. I really like reading the comments. You have a great audience.
Yeah, man. Shout out to my audience. I appreciate each and every one of you. Some of these people I actually know personally in real life, and some of these people are like my virtual family. My call it I guess my social media cousins.
No, totally. I have the same thing going on. Yeah,
Right.
a lot of great people out there. It keeps you feeling
Yeah,
sane sometimes when you see some of these like-minded people.
that's right. And it's good, like some people call it an echo chamber, but I don't care. Like, there's
Yeah.
so much anti-blackness in the world. It feels good to
Yes.
be surrounded by other black people who love black people unapologetically. And I don't,
Anybody who says
you know,
that is a liar anyway, because when you look at
right.
those other people, I mean, there's no bigger echo chamber than that whole black liberal, blue check, white liberal academic complex. They all read
Mhm.
the same books, recommend the same authors.
Thank you, DIY Queen. Appreciate you too, sis. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks to everybody who
Yeah, thanks to
gave
everybody.
great comments. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Check out
All
Champagne
right,
Sharks
so
too.
check out Champagne Sharks. He is on all platforms that play podcasts. I watched on Google Podcasts. I watched several of them. And definitely you have a sharp analysis that I appreciate. And like I said, I appreciate your courage. So, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all being in the chat with us. This was great. I will hopefully see y'all next week.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll be watching.
All right. Yeah. Take care, everybody.